I'm Steve Clemons. I direct the American Strategy Program at the New America Foundation, a think tank in Washington, D.C., and publish the blog The Washington Note. Today we're launching the first Bernard L. Schwartz Economic Symposium here at the New America Foundation and asking the question about what will, at least in the near term, replace the American consumer as a driver of global growth. And this is anticipation of the G20 summit, which will soon be hosted in London. We have with us today Bernard Schwartz, who's written quite a bit about this own question about the need for the United States at this punctuation point in its history to make a solid investment in the future of infrastructure for the nation. Bernard, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the support of the program. Can you tell us a little bit about why you think infrastructure is so vital to make a major commitment now, and can you grade the Obama administration's commitment to infrastructure so far?
Yes, I'd be happy to. First of all, the title of this conference today is what will replace the consumer, the American consumer, not only in the United States but around the world, in creating demand for products that have driven our prosperity for a long period of time. We know it intuitively, and the empirical data shows that there is a difference in the number of employees, labor, that goes into services activity and manufacturing activity. And there's a gap there. More people are employed in manufacturing to produce a dollar's worth of revenue, as compared less people than is involved with a dollar of revenue for service. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen in this great technologically development that we have here is that there's going to be a gap in the future of the Americans who are employed in a prosperous economy from what we had before. And those people are going to be permanently unemployed unless we find something to fill it in. Now, we went through a revolution in the 1920s and 30s and 40s in this country. When I was a young man, 43% of Americans lived on farms and produced food. Now, 2.5% or 3% do. And it took us 50 years to absorb that dislocation, people moving into a different kind of occupation. But we made it. We made a successful transition.
Do you see this time as sort of that sort of transition also?
I see the requirement for the transition, but I'm not sure I see the way to get there. We're going to have to develop engines of employment, engines of growth, in order to take care of that unemployment gap. And one of the easy ways for us, because we understand it, is the infrastructure investment program.
What do you mean by infrastructure? Tell us.
I mean everything that goes from bridges and highways and railways to the securitization of our ports, to a new air traffic control system that is desperately needed in this country, to high-speed rail.
Communications.
It's definitely the grid, electric grid, the high-speed grid, all of the things that bring us into the 21st century and make us a first world nation. If you want to know the difference between the United States...
And we've kind of let a lot of that go. I mean, one of the things people, in this go-go economy, we sort of began to back off as we privatized sectors. We didn't create the vehicles. And as we were discussing the other day...
I suggest you go to Saigon or the Far East and get on an airplane and come to the United States and land in Kennedy, and which is the third world nation.
Well, I took the train the other day from Shanghai to its airport, got there in 7 minutes, went 300 miles an hour.
We do not have that here. We're the only industrialized country in the world that does not have a high-speed rail system. And you talk about saving carbonized fuel and everything that goes with it. Why aren't we in the forefront of that?
Right.
We're 23rd or 24th in wideband deployment in the world. I think we're behind Albania. I mean, why should we be in that position?
Laugh.
But that is the argument for the lifestyle improvement that comes from investment of infrastructure and the productivity improvement. I'm addressing another issue. I think we need job creation today that will put Americans back into useful employment, not for a 2-year period, but for...
So this is, you're talking about a rewiring that also has to do with changing the social contract, the stakeholders in society, putting them in meaningful employment, and creating recurring returns to the economy over the next generation, right?
It not changes it, it protects it, and preserves it and extends it. Now, you asked the question is, am I satisfied with what the Obama administration is doing about that? No. Everybody I speak to in the current administration will talk about, as will the president, about an investment in infrastructure, and I think it's very important, and they understand why it's important. But nevertheless, the program that they put forth is a 2-year program that measures somewhere, depending on what the calculus is, about $200 billion. That's just insufficient. It's inadequate. And if I'm a manufacturer out there, or I'm a businessman out there, and I have to invest in a program of infrastructure that's going to be a 2-year program, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to retrain my labor force in order to do that. So we need a commitment, the government needs a commitment that is more than a $200 billion 2-year program. And until we do that, I'm afraid that we will not seriously attack that problem. But the long-term program of the gap in employment needs more than infrastructure investment. It needs the new technologies that are going to produce new manufacturing requirements for this country. And we have to, that means, of course, education, that means R&D investment. There's a whole program that has to be done that I think we're giving lip service to. We recognize the need, but we have not committed our resources to it yet.
Well, Bernard, well, thank you for being with us today and for having a chat. And
look, I have to tell you how wonderful this group that you put together, and the audience is stellar. The panel is particularly interesting, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.